So, Rama, it is not only a slowdown in consumption, it's also the way what people are spending on is increasingly has been domestic goods and services. So that has put a damper on the amount of trade. In addition to that, there's been a very sharp increase in trade restrictions. We've had about 3,000 new restrictions in 2023, 3,100 in 2022. Those are big numbers. It was only about 1,000 per year in 2019. And this is in a context of rising barriers and the global economy splintering into blocks, and that has been a problem for the trade outlook.
Looking at the forecast, in general, the global forecast, the forecast for 2024, that's been raised up. But the forecast for economies in Sub-Saharan Africa, that was cut by 20 basis points relative to the forecast that we had in October. So what exactly explains that reduction? Why is it that economies in the region are only forecast to grow by 3.8% this year?
So yes, our forecast for Sub-Saharan Africa is a rise from 3.3% growth 2023 to 3.8% this year, and this is well above the global average, but it is slower slightly than our last forecast by about 0.2 percentage points. That's on the account of the South African economy, where additional logistical disruptions, including in transportation like rail and bottlenecks at ports, is weighing on production. So there are also these kind of bottlenecks elsewhere in the region. And one issue that affects many countries is the burden of debt, which is costing more and more to service and is crowding out investment.
Indeed. So basically this boils down, well, not entirely, but to a large extent, this essentially boils down to the effect of sorting out the problems that Transnet has been having with getting cargo through the ports and essentially making sure that the rail system in South Africa actually works as it should.
Yeah, these are the structural reforms there would really help to get growth up towards, the potential that the country clearly has.
One of the other things you point out in the report is you're making the case here for, and I'm quoting the report here directly, a faster and more efficient coordination on debt resolution through the common framework. But specifically, A, what does that look like? And B, what does that entail as far as changes are concerned to equitable treatment? Because that seems to be the sticking point that keeps coming up with respect to Ethiopia. We've seen it happening with Zambia. Ghana hasn't run into that problem yet. Hopefully they don't. But equitable treatment seems to be a real key sticking point with the common framework.
Right. Well, you're referring to the common framework to facilitate debt restructuring for lower income countries. And there has been some faster progress. Let's acknowledge that first towards restructuring. We've got a time lag that took about 11 months for Chad to get to an agreement, from 11 months to 9 months for Zambia, 6 months for Sri Lanka, and 5 months for Ghana. So things are moving in the right direction, but they could be going faster. And as you said, one of the issues to work on is the comparability of treatment, making sure that that is clear. What are the process? What are the expectations on the timeline? Because this is one of the biggest things that can help to increase participation in the debt relief. Having clarity on the process and a timeline for the comparability of treatment. And there's been some progress, but more is needed.
When we say more is needed, what exactly do we need to do? Do we need to, for example, clarify, because some of the arguments that we keep hearing is, if and it's a slightly crude analogy, if we're dealing with a company in liquidation, right, we've got different tiers, right, of creditors. We wouldn't treat shareholders, for example, in the same way that we'd treat unsecured lenders. And by the same token, therefore, bilateral creditors and commercial creditors ought to be treated, arguably, in different ways. Do we need to codify that into the common framework?
Well, this is something that is under discussion, but the general purpose is, in fact, to have great transparency and clarity so that everybody can come in knowing that they're going to be facing comparable terms. This is at a broad level, but then it depends on each country exactly how its progress can proceed.
Indeed, and hopefully this is something that's going to be sorted out through the Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable.
Absolutely. This is something we've been a great supporter of, and there was progress already in Marrakesh at the meetings in October. And so let's hope that this can be accelerated. You have to remember that with the Paris Club, it really did take a long time for creditors to learn how to work together. But what we've seen so far is already faster than that. But let's hope that this keeps moving in the right direction.